Ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. You know I can't slow down, I can't hold up, though you know I wish I could. Oh, there ain't no rest for the wicked until you close your eyes for good. Until you close your eyes for good. Until you close your eyes for good. Howdy, everybody. Slick Jimmy here. I'm going to talk about my comic book coming out soon called Little Girl Lethal, and about Sugar Lightspeed, who is my protagonist, and about the world she inhabits, which is called Lost Peaks. Lost Peaks is a megalopolis, a megaplex. It's also a nation within a union called the Arakan Union, which is part of 5 great empires that dominate this alternate Earth. The Union is roughly the size of half the planet, pretty much. It has North America out to the north of the Atlantic Ridge, down in the Caribbean, all of Pacifica, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan make up the Arakan Union. And that's the largest empire of the 5 empires that dominate the Earth. There is a Sino-Russian empire, there is a European consortium, there is a ostensibly a Muslim empire in Africa, and then there's a Catholic empire in South America. And those dominate the planet. The geography is similar to our geography, yet different. If you saw it on the map, you'd see some marked changes from what we typically know of our globe. Lost Peaks itself is set in a supervolcano cauldron that would be analogous to Yellowstone in our world. And the city kind of fills the entire valley that's ringed by massive, over 30,000 foot tall mountains. And it surrounds an hourglass lake. That's the titular name of it, Hourglass Lake. And then it extends out into the canyons off the valley, making a population of in excess of 100 million people. It is a city of extremes and abundance and corruption and vice and beauty, strangely enough, juxtapositioned and oxymoronically. The elite live up in the massive buildings that are well over a mile high in many instances. These are called sky piercers. They are very large-sized skyscrapers. And as you go down in altitude within the city, you get different strata of society till you reach the surface, and everything above that's called topside, everything below is bottom side, and also called the deeps. The deeps are a warren of tunnels and catacombs created by the mining that the city's wealth is built upon. Massive amounts of mineral wealth have come out of Lost Peaks. Lost Peaks also has many different names that it goes under, kind of nicknames, appellations. One is Doomtown, kind of a play on word of Boomtown, and also that the city lives under an onus of knowing that they're on top of a volcano. They also call it the Big Nugget for obvious reasons. Lots of gold comes out of the Big Nugget. And there's Sky Highville, referring to the massive mountains and skyscrapers within this city. Also Bloody Creeks, because the city is partitioned up into regions called claims. And the families that own these claims, that have their claims on that part of the city, have often had conflicts which have reddened the creeks and the rivers and the lake itself. Thus Bloody Creeks. And finally, the monster in the mountains, because Lost Peaks as kind of a personification, it's kind of female, and it's hell hath no fury, like Lost Peaks. Sorry for that little note on my phone. If you aren't capable of surviving in the city, it will chew you up and spit you out, or just cannibalize you. Lost Peaks is not a tender mistress. So the monster in the mountains. Lost Peaks itself is a very large city, as I have said, and its influence has spread across the globe through power and its wealth. And so there's a network that kind of radiates out. And if the Earth had a capital, Lost Peaks would be it. Although it doesn't have, although it's the capital of its own nation, it's not the capital of its empire. That would be another place called Heartland, somewhere analogous to like St. Louis. And there used to be another capital, which would be, again, analogous to Washington, D.C., which was destroyed in what would be the same conflict in our world that was World War II. The world structure is much different politically. It has a lot of factions within each one of the empires that kind of vie for power. But within the Union, each nation has its own kind of culture, and as you step out, it is very different from nation to nation within the Union. Unlike say, the United States, which has a kind of an overarching, broader culture that keeps its cohesion. The nation, the Union, keeps its cohesion through keeping itself from being destroyed by its enemies without the Union. So there's the general layout of the city and how things kind of go. And because of its power, it is a place of extremes. Like I said, it has corruption and vice. And my protagonist, Sugar Lightspeed, is a product of that terrible and wonderfulness of the city at once. Her formative years were kind of a hell. She was sold into slavery and used as a plaything for obscene monsters. And this was done very young, before she could speak. And so that really kind of has informed the damage to her psyche and to her emotions from that end. And then she was rescued by her father, X, the assassin. He is known as a Horseman of the Apocalypse, one of 4 gentlemen and 1 lady who they're separate from the Assassin's Guild. They are independent contractors, which doesn't make the Assassin's Guild very happy. But they are such badasses, nobody wants to deal with them. And he takes her in. He loves her as a father, not as what she was used to. And he trains her to be a killer, to be his protege and his apprentice. And she excels in his tutelage and becomes quite the little terror. Her objective is not to become a professional killer, but to wreak her vengeance, her retribution, and justice for her form of justice upon those that had enslaved her and those that she deems unworthy. She has some innate powers and some others given to her that allow her to do some pretty incredible things. Thus, it makes her kind of a superhero, super anti-hero. And almost to the point of godhood. She becomes very overpowered at one point. And one of the problems she has is learning how to control herself. And that is very difficult for her because of her own internal damage and the demons that haunt her and drive her to do some pretty terrible things. So that's more about her. I might have spoken about her on the other video I did in the same manner. But yeah, she's very pretty. She's beautiful, in fact. And if any of you have seen the media that I have had commissioned, you'll know kind of what she looks like. I appreciate all the work that my artists have done to visualize and bring my creation, my world into being so that others can see it as I see it. And I hope that people enjoy those things. Some of the other characters are her father. Like I said, X is her father. He's the Dark Ronin, the Wraith in the Shadows. And he has some abilities of his own, which allow him to to do his profession. There are other characters that we will meet as we go along. There's one called Killer Cadillac. He's a pretty interesting character. He's a pimp. He runs a casino/brothel, and he used to be what would be essentially a cardinal in the Universal Church of the Catholic Church, and he got fed up with that and being what they called the Hand of God, the marked assassin for the church, and well, he's just kind of sunk into his own vices, and although he's a fairly interesting guy, he's not terrible. He's just what he is. He's just one character. There's another one called Scarlet, and the Fury, and she is another protege of the man who taught X. She's completely psychotic. She's also a hearse woman, I guess, horseman of the apocalypse. She has her own abilities, and she is extremely damaged in many other ways because she's again a product of Lost Peaks. Lost Peaks does not leave a person whole, especially if they let themselves go into their own problems. As you go along, you'll meet the antagonist, the main antagonist. I'm not going to reveal who that is. I think that would be a better reveal as time goes on. But there are many people that she has to deal with. Threshold guardians, as Joseph Campbell would say. And some she has to destroy and beat, and others she has to turn them to her way. So that's a little bit more about it. I hope that is informative and maybe fun. Hope it didn't bore the crap out of you. If I did, apologies, but that's the way it is. So, and no rest for the wicked, money don't grow on trees.